Okay, Turbo Phoenix. Oh, very turbo. And very dead. Who cares? Seriously. Oh, what? Whoa, whoa. Dude. Oh my god, Maven. Hey guys, I'm very happy to finally talk about this build, and this is gonna be a full build guide video. This is probably my new favorite minion build of all times. It has really good clear speed, it's very pleasant, it just clears so smoothly and so nicely. And then it has very high damage, I would say, over 6 million average hit damage per explosion. The defenses are a bit lacking, but I did all the normal content that I usually do without any Uber bosses yet. I'm gonna try to somehow condense all the information, but there are a couple of things that I need to talk about. The Crucible mod, how it works, the Minion Instability, I guess, the Spectres that I use, the Animate Guardian and why I'm not using Animate Guardian, and then a couple other things. I went through different kind of setups. I tried with Animate Guardian, tried without Animate Guardian, at first tried without the Spectres, I tried with one course, tried with two courses, and this is the final setup that I like the most. It doesn't mean that it's the best, or it doesn't mean that it's the highest damage, it just I like this setup the most. You can of course modify it to your own liking, but for me this works really well for everything that I wanted to do. Good clear speed, good single target. The only drawback is that you kind of cannot spam your SRS, because with the Crucible mod you can only have 3 maximum summon raging spirits. Even with the Mark of the Red Covenant helmet you're still going to have 3 of them. It's not going to reduce the SRS limit. You also cannot increase the SRS limit. This Crucible modifier also gives your raging spirits Diamond Shrine and Massive Shrine. So they always crit, and they are slightly bigger, they have a bit more AoE, and they have a bit more life. Normally when you play with the Popcorn or Minion Instability Summon Raging Spirits, you use either Tabula Amulet, which I did use while leveling, or Infernal Legion, but I'm not using any of them. I am purely relying on the Qotra's Regulator shield, because minions always crit, although you do need to make sure that we have enough accuracy and we attack fast enough, and we do attack 4 times per second, and we have like 98% accuracy in this setup. So all we need to do is reduce their life to 50%, and then they explode because of minion stability. So we essentially need to hit 4 times, because those 4 hits are going to be critical, and we're going to reduce their life below 50% and just explode. They do have a bit of regen, they may recover life because of minion death as well, but overall it should take like 1 second for them to pop against single target. For map clear you don't need to worry about them degening. As soon as you summon them, they just chase the enemies. They hit, let's say, 4 enemies at the same time with the melee splash coming from the helmet, and we just instantly explode, because 4 enemies is all we need to hit with 1 hit to instantly explode. And in some cases I think this works better than Tavukai or Infernal Legion, because it's not based on degen speed, so they have more time to travel further, but they still explode as soon as they reach enemies essentially. And that's why for clear speed it feels so good. You don't need to worry about how fast we're going to degen. As soon as we reach enemy packs, they hit, they explode. And 1 is enough to pretty much clear even multiple enemy packs, because the explosion itself is pretty large. And on top of that I also have Ignite Proliferation, which is not mandatory, but it does help with the clear speed a bit, and in the end I did not replace it because it still increases the Ignite damage. And Ignite is around 1.9 million Ignite DPS, although it does not feel like 1.9 million DPS with Ignites. It feels more like 1 million Ignite DPS. I'm not sure what's happening. I feel like in game or in PUB there's something wrong with the Ignites, and it's not getting all the damage in game, or maybe Path of Building includes more damage than it actually should for Ignites, but the hit damage is pretty juicy. Now, the overall cost of the build, I think I estimated it somewhere below 20 divines. There are 3 expensive items, the rest are like 2 divines. So you can start this build for around 2 divines. All you need to get is the Crucible modifier, craft some kind of wand like +1 to minions with minion damage or minion life, get +2 Tabula. I have been using +2 Tabula all the way until like level 93 or 94. Other than the Crucible modifier, you also want Mark of the Red Covenant helmet, which does give a lot of damage for them, and you don't need melee splash, or you don't need the Infernal Legion, for example, and you do want to mix that with the Qotra's Regulator shield. By the way, all of my minions have minimum charges from the shield, so we have minimum 1 frenzy and 1 power charge. Other than Crucible modifier, the Mark of the Red Covenant and the Qotra's Regulator, there is no specific item that you need, so it's very simple to start this. However, as always, there are expensive items that you can add, and the expensive items that I have are Bloodnotch Jewel and the Immutable Force. I think it's around 7 divines for both. I'm not even sure if you even need them. I haven't tried without them, to be honest, but you could probably try it without it. However, in one of my setups, I am using Cast When Stunned to automate Desecrate and to automate Spirit Offering, but that can be replaced with the Trigger Craft Wand. Now, before I talk about the items and links, I also want to talk about my Spectres, Zombies, and Animate Guardian all at once. I tried Animate Guardian, but later removed the Animate Guardian because I did not have enough sockets to link my Spectres and Zombies with Anomalous Control Destruction. You want Anomalous Control Destruction because you don't want your other minions to be able to crit, because if we crit an enemy pack and we hit multiple enemies, we're just gonna die. And it was kind of annoying resummoning my Zombies, resummoning my Spectres, because from time to time they would still crit. They still have base critical strike chance, although my wand does have -1.5 base critical strike chance for minions. Minions normally would have 3.5 base crit chance with this wand. However, they also get +1 to minimum power charge, which does increase that. So they were still critting from time to time, multiple enemies at the same time, and just exploding. Now, here's the problem with the minion stability builds. If you use other minions, essentially they only have half of their normal life, because as soon as they reach 50%, they explode. My zombies say that we have 43,000 health, but in fact, as soon as we lose around 22,000 health, we just die, because we explode because of minion stability. So for that reason, all of your other minions going to be squishier and less tanky than on other non-minion stability minion builds. So for that reason, using Animate Guardian is a bit riskier than normally, because it's not as tanky. I gave Animate Guardian at first Anomalous Control Destruction. Obviously that's the most important part. You don't want it to ever crit. And then Meat Shield and Minion Life. Now, as for the Spectres, I'm still unsure which Spectres to use. I am using 2 Pale Seraphims and 1 Arena Master. Arena Master is just kind of for action speed, which I'm not even sure if it's worth having. And Pale Seraphims, I'm not even sure if the debuff stacks, but they do apply a debuff on enemy, which makes them take increased damage. And I try to add some kind of dogs that are supposed to apply covered enemies in Ash, but then later I learned that we only do that when we reach low life, which is 50%, which means we would die. I removed those, and now it's just Pale Seraphims and Arena Masters. You could come up with your own ideas what Spectres you want to experiment with. So, as for the rest of my items, skills, supports, and passive skill tree. Currently I am using +2 Diallas. It can either be +2 to socketed minion gems or +2 to socketed duration gems. I'm not using Empower, by the way. You do want at least 1 red and the remaining green. You also do not want a Dialla with life modifier, because the new life mastery gives 15% increased life if the body armor does not have life modifier. The Raging Spirits, level 21, quality 20, linked with Predator, increased critical damage. This is a massive multiplier. Awaken Fire, because this is my only way to apply fire exposure right now. For that you need Awaken level 5 Awaken Fire Penetration. Ignite Proliferation, which you could experiment by replacing it with something else. And Minion Life. For the zombies I have Anomalous Control Destruction, Meat Shield, and Feeding Frenzy. So Feeding Frenzy and Meat Shield counter each other, and we're not aggressive, we're not defensive. As for the Race Spectres, Anomalous Control Destruction, Minion Life, and Meat Shield. I guess you could try to give them Elemental Army, which would apply exposure as long as your minions would have some fire damage, but then they would also need chance to ignite. Then I have Skitterboards linked with Unbound Ailment that increases the effect of shock that we have, and the chill, and chill works defensively as well. I am using Arctic Armor because like I said, I'm using Bloodnotch, so I cannot use Soul of the Brand King for the stun. I do want to be stunned, but I still want to avoid shocks. So I got a jewel for the shock avoidance, and the rest is covered with this implicit. So I do have a 100% chance to avoid being shocked. And I am immune to freeze because of Arctic Armor. You don't need Val Arctic Armor. It may make it worse because only your Summon Raging Spirits do damage. So if you freeze yourself with Arctic Armor for like 8 seconds, well, during those 8 seconds you pretty much don't really do damage. I also added Aspect of the Spider, which I crafted on the Amulet. The Amulet doesn't need anything special, +1 to fire or +1 to all gems, life and then resistances. Craft Aspect of the Spider. In the wand, which is linked to cast when stunned, is Desecrate first and then Spirit Offering. This is not ideal setup. I would still prefer to have, I guess, Trigger Wand, because if I create 5 corpses, then it also consumes 5 corpses with the Spirit Offering. Because of this thing. With at least one nearby corpse, you and nearby allies deal 10% more damage, and nearby enemies deal 10% reduced damage. Now this wand, I have no idea how much would it actually cost. I paid 1 divine, but only because the person kind of encouraged me to play this build, and I didn't really think about too much. I just wanted the Crucible tree, and then later realized that wait, this one is actually kind of OP and should be a lot more expensive than 1 divine. But essentially you just try to get Raging Spirits Crucible mod and crit multi. The minions deal minus crit chance doesn't really matter because the SRS always gonna crit. Now that I think about it, this node is also not needed because you want actually positive key SRS for minions. I wanted this initially when I was playing with the Tavokai Amulet. And finally, Elemental Weakness and Flammability is linked to Hexed Bloom. You can also get a bit of minion damage on gloves if you get lucky with the implicit. Don't pay attention to the fire exposure. I'm not hitting enemies. I'm getting increased minion damage from the Searing Exile modifier, and then benchcraft the minion damage, and then just try to cover your resistances, life, attributes if you need. Darkness Enthroned, obviously you want as close as possible to 100% effect. You do want a lot of strength for Awakened Fire Penetration. You do need 126 strength. If you don't have enough strength, you could use efficient training in here. I think ideally you would still want a bit more minion movement speed. For leveling, you can use Infernal Legion early on to make them degen slowly. Although it's not very fast, but you can use Anomalous Infernal Legion, which will degen them a bit faster. And you're probably not gonna be rushing to Minion Instability that early on. I was using Beta Dream and the She-Breath Amulet to level with, I think all the way until maps, or maybe until something like level 56 or 60 when I switched to Minion Instability. You do want Eldritch Battery, and you also want Energy Shield Mastery if you're using the Bloodnotch. I also have minions recover 5% life on minion death. This I think helps my other minions survive better. Now for the large cluster jewel, you do want 35% effect and whatever else you need. But you also I think want Call to the Slaughter, which is kind of great because it helps your minion summon Raging Spirits quite a lot. 30% movement speed is kind of big. And on medium cluster jewels you want minion life. You also want 35 effect, and you don't want any big nodes. On small cluster jewels I just picked up more life. Dexterity, which I needed, some resistances which also needed. The other one also has dexterity. It's very convenient to have medium with the attributes. Arctic Armor does need dexterity, so you're still gonna want to raise it to around 90, but you can also pick up dexterity here. If you got Tabula or Diallas without any life modifiers, make sure you pick up this Mastery, 15% increased maximum life if there's no life modifier on equipped body armor. You also want the flat maximum life. For minions you want a bit more accuracy. You want this one gives a lot of maximum life, and you also want more AoE. I also picked up Recube nodes. For the Pantheons, also you can experiment. I'm not sure, I just picked up these and never opened it again. And I guess one last thing, the Animate Guardian items on PoB you can access through this selection. So my Animate Guardian had a helmet with nearby enemies having -9 to fire resistance, and was applying Scorch, which reduced their fire resistance, well, all resistances by -14. But it also had Garb of the Ephemeral, which makes nearby enemies cannot deal critical strikes, which is really nice. So yeah, that pretty much covers the build. I need to finish the video because there's thunder and I won't be able to record any proper audio anymore. So if you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. For now, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.